It was scored in the logbook at 10:43 on date November 11, 2018, a planned exploration descent into the Karanou Sinkhole, the Greek island of Crete. The names were spoken first: Eleni Papadaki, 20 years old, and Nikos Vrettos, 25. Then, with no hint of indulgence, the equipment to be used was listed in order: safety harness, helmet, rope, flashlight. The air was 14 degrees. A wind that threaded through the olive groves swept dry soil like a thin veil, and every breath taken in mixed with the smell of wet stone. The entry shaft was less than a meter wide. The walls were wet with sweating rock. The pale cones of the flashlights grazed the surfaces of narrow dark layers, and silence fell like a heavy cover. For the first meters, the ground was firm, then its texture changed to bound mud, gravel, and seepage water with a thin skin of clay keeping it together. With every step, the marble-like pebbles skittered away, failed to spread the weight evenly, and the body sank deeper. Their breathing was kept short. 2 steps and stop. 2 steps and listen. And in a tight passage in which they had to crawl rather than climb. Knees and palms met wet rock quickly. The cold worked into the skin they came with.
This is what happens when you look at mud and think, yeah, I should crawl in that, heh heh.
And its temperature dropped by degrees. A small chamber, the ceiling grew closer. A fog formed on the flashlight lenses and webbed a misty halo in front of the beam. Echo returned ticking even when they made no sound, a metronome that exposed the body's inner rhythm. The apparent width tricked them, the thin skin of collapse fill in front of it. Their floor turned out to be the deceptive flatness of buried layers. Mud. Being stuck stopped being a feeling and became a geometry that was imprinted into the body. Every twitch drove body weight into the gaps already, blade-like. Their phones had no signal. The stone mouth sealed off the outer world in muted silence. They got to follow the plan and sound the whistle signal. 3 short bursts. The tones multiplied and scattered in the narrow channels. The echo lagged, and only after many long minutes did a faint answer drift down. It meant that rescue was still possible, but there was only one way to reach it. Above, at the tight mouth, the outside team formed a fast but cautious plan.
You hear that? 3 little whistle blasts, and suddenly an entire meeting gets scheduled on the surface. One guy stuck in the mud, and boom, instant cave TED Talk with helmets. I love how it takes one amateur to get in trouble and like 10 professionals to go, okay, let's not all die for this genius. They're up there planning plates, anchors, line angles. And the best part, only one rescuer is allowed inside, because apparently the cave already hit its idiot quota for the day. Down below, panic, mud, existential crisis. Up top, so who wants to risk their spine for a stranger who thought gravity was negotiable?
With a consultant on hand. A plated surface would be lowered in sections, anchors checked and rope lines reset. A single rescuer only would go inside, and the line would be driven by the rope operator's steady rhythm. A misstep here would swallow 3 people at once, and they knew it. Time thickened below. As the cold neared 11, lungs shortened, the chest broadened and narrowed under a thrilling weight with each breath, and echo and silence were each other's shadows. Nikos freed one foot from the lock, but the other succumbed to the hug of the mud. Eleni's leg was caught against a low, moved rock, hidden beneath the gravel. The word terrifying became the plain unit of the moment. Cave, darkness, tight passage.
Congrats, man. 1 foot in survival, 1 foot still in bad decisions.
Panic. These clashed at the edge of the mind. The rescuer lowered the first plate and spread it across the ground. The weight pressing down redistributed to a wider surface, the marble-like mud effect soften, They gave Nikos a line first. The safety buckle clicked. The rope operator held the outer anchor taut, and the haul was done mill by mill. The mud clenched for a second. Some bubbles rose in a rhythm, and his leg slid free of the ground like a wedge oiled through a tight seam. Some pain traveled as a numb line into the toes. The cold was an inward sting. Because the clay and mud around Eleni's pinched like a sleeve, they bought a second plate and opened the perimeter in small scraping motions. With each scrape, the layer liquefied again. The line between falling and climbing narrowed to a cut edge. The consultant moved the line's angle to the right in a tight feature. A third plate descended, and the flashlight's trembling light picked out fine veins. Water fell in drops. Rocks cold raised from it on the palms, thin as needles. When a second line was fixed to Eleni's harness, the first pull plunged her a few centimeters deeper. The rescuer levered a small stone to break the binding. The click sounded like a warning. Few centimeters of release drew enough inches in the bode. The pressure on the chest eased, resolve gutted up without a name, and the warmth of courage became a spark traveling along the rope against the cold. The fourth plate is a platform. Knees braced, body weight distributed, lines tensioned.
Look at that. Chest pressure easing, courage warming up, hope leveling up like an XP bar. Amazing how brave people feel once someone else's rope starts doing the hard work. Heh heh. A few minutes ago it was, we've got this, we trained for this. Now it's, please, mysterious plate number 4, save my life. These two dropped in like it was a content shoot. Do it for the algorithm, babe. Well, the cave definitely boosted their reach. Straight to the rescue team. Heh heh. And the funniest part? They'll still tell this story like it was a spiritual journey. Buddy, it was a group project, and you were the dangerous one.
Every centimeter drawn added substance to the word hope. Stone, rope, water, wall, gravel. Each found their place in sentences here. The hours were heavy, but the rhythm held. Fear and helplessness rose in waves, yet the silent mathematics of the lines wished it. When Eleni's leg filled the rock's grasp, the flash cracked up her the castrating pain. Nevertheless, the haul continued. She rose up out of the mire like a branch drawn from silt, mud-lacquered helmet and forearms, past 1240, cave temperature. 11, gloves full of wet, breathing shortened, pain a slow burn.
Nothing like being peeled out of the mud to realize the cave didn't test you. It just proved you weren't ready.
Panic a quiet, controlled. When the tight bend joined the exit line, the flash cut the white opening above. At a single stroke, the words exit and escape met in form. From the first hour ahead, all the small details, sound knots, the pull of the anchor, plate order, balanced pressure, were framed into one sentence. It ensured breath would not be cut again. The surface was reached at 14:02. The daylight was brilliant and veiled for eyes that had been too long without. The water dripped from wet gloves. The mud on helmets became crusts. The outside team set safety tape, recorded the entrance. When phones finally noticed with a signal, what remained behind was not only a stretcher and a rope, just two bodies poised each moment. Learn down there that survival is not a dry process, and the value of these darkened hollows is measured. It echoed as a measure of human time. Short interval, long, etc. When they returned, a thin clay sheet sealed over the collapse zone. The marble effect pebbles lay silence, but the weight of that first step lay under this surface as an invisible mark. That mark read like a report written by the body.
Narrow, suffocating, wet, cold. You know what most people call that? A bad idea. They called it adventure. The cave's not evil, it's just brutally honest. It says, here are the rules. Break them, and I'll write the report on your ribs. They drag their courage across a knife edge and act surprised it cuts. You chose hard mode on purpose, guys. There was a sidewalk somewhere in this country. All that talk about breath and rhythm. Meanwhile, their real superpower is ignoring every warning sign nature gave them for free. And the cave? It doesn't clap, doesn't cheer, doesn't care. It just remembers. Every drop, every slip, every panic.
Narrow, suffocating, wet, cold. Stone hard, wall hard, passage unforgiving. The line of resolve, courage, endurance had been pulled across that knife edge into climbing rather than falling to the safer side. Choose the rhythm of breath attended the wrong over attentiveness, technic over fear, a small but night hope attended helplessness. The cave did not forget. Every drop wrote, every echo opened an old page. This words added that day were not those of chance, but of discipline. Breath, rescue, consultant, rescuer, rope, flashlight, stone, mud, cold.
Amazing! One tiny smart move after 50 bad ones, and humans call it wisdom. Ha ha.
Body, pain, hardness, the funny stretch under the muscle, mends, burn, the dark, level the warmth. The labyrinth was into the memory at 4. Every light first point, the rusty duck pond widen with the rhythm step by step. Hope fixated the lesson of this and throat latch. If not as the rope speaks, anchor sound trusts. If the plate set right, the line answers us. When meaningful this needed path, opens that knowing fear. Only it, just stoda for this transience. Terrifying where need daily order. When the afternoon wind, mud shell air through the cold olive grove the stone, the echo down preserved. Returned or never had. More until days of that the warning tenants. The fury quiets something. Brutally the stone layers there. The ape echoed only deeper. And mud, the body's endurance rather than glanced wider. If have there, when fear they off wandered wild, whisper to itself in a tight hollow.
Down there it's mud, stone, and panic trying to act like courage. Up here it's just a couch, a lamp, and me, somehow still making better survival choices. Caves don't hate people, they just don't babysit bad judgment. So if you really want to test your limits, maybe start with this. Read the warnings, respect the people who rescue you, and remember, some of you explore the dark, the rest of us just keep the lights on and watch you not die, hopefully, from a very safe distance. And if after all this you still feel like going back in, congratulations, you've learned absolutely nothing.